In the past 24 hours, all the violence and unrest we saw in occupied East Jerusalem has switched to Gaza. Israel is continuing to hit the Strip with airstrikes. 27 people have been killed, including 9 children. And Israel's defense minister has approved more attacks, as well as the calling up of about 5,000 reserve soldiers. Meanwhile, Hamas and Palestinian armed groups have been firing hundreds of rockets themselves into southern Israel. 2 women killed, in fact, in the city of Ashkelon in Israel. Giving rise to all of this, of course, was Monday's violence in occupied East Jerusalem when Israeli forces stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Hundreds of Palestinians were wounded, some of them hit by those rubber-coated steel bullets in the eyes. So, our coverage team, as they have been the last few days, Nida Ibrahim in Ramallah, occupied West Bank. Harry Fawcett has moved from occupied East Jerusalem to southern Israel. This is, I believe, Harry, as close as you can get safely to the Gaza barrier fence.
Well, yes, as close as we can get for now. The Israeli police checkpoint on the main road here, they didn't let us get any closer than this. So we're a couple of kilometers away from that border fence. We're south of Ashkelon, and indeed Ashdod, where that very, very large barrage was fired a little earlier on Tuesday. That barrage, Hamas says, consisted of 137 rockets fired within 5 minutes. So that is a major firing of heavy ordnance at these 2 towns, and it seems to have swamped the Iron Dome system to some extent. I think I just heard another interception in the distance there. And we have now got this confirmation that a house was hit in Ashkelon and 2 women were killed. As you say, the airstrikes continue inside Gaza as well. That death toll now up to 27, including 9 children. And the Israeli military is talking about one strike in particular on an apartment building in the center of Gaza City, in which the Palestinian Islamic Jihad faction said 3 of its fighters were killed. The Israeli military and Islamic Jihad have both confirmed that one of them was a rocket fire commander, Sama Abdul al-Mamluk, and that preceded the very big barrage that came in the other direction. They had, Hamas and the other factions, promised to fire longer-range rockets if residential areas were hit.
And Israel's airstrikes unlikely to let up if we go by what the Israeli defense minister is saying.
Indeed. I mean, the Israeli prime minister as well on Monday night was saying that this was going to be a forceful response, that it would take some time because as far as he was concerned, Hamas had crossed red lines in firing long-range rockets on Jerusalem, and that has been again backed up by the defense minister, his political rival Benny Gantz, who says that the military is calling up 5,000 reservists. We're also hearing that a major military exercise that was scheduled for this week has now been postponed further. So there is obviously preparation and indeed conducting of a major military operation. There is, after what took place in Jerusalem, where there were a few concessions made, Jews not allowed to get into the Temple Mount, the cancellation, another interception above us, the cancellation of the march of flag-waving Jewish nationalists through the Old City. It would have been, there is, I think, some political pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu to exact a pretty strong military response to what has been coming out of Gaza from Hamas. And indeed, we're seeing that borne out in the extensive nature of that military action and the number of deaths inside Gaza, including 9 children.
Harry Fawcett reporting live from southern Israel. As we heard there, the interception of Hamas rockets whilst Harry was on air. We'll go to Ramallah now. Nida Ibrahim in the occupied West Bank. What are you hearing from inside Gaza and indeed from the likes of Hamas and Islamic Jihad?
They are vowing to continue their barrage of rockets against Israel. The Qassam brigades that are Hamas's military wing has issued a statement saying that Israel has crossed all red lines when it comes to besieging what they said the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. And there is a lot of Palestinians here in the occupied West Bank who are in support of these rocket attacks. They say that the Palestinian response needs to be force, because Israel only understands that language. But also you have, on the other hand, those Palestinians who would say that Israel would ultimately have the upper hand when it comes to any military escalation on the ground. They are more equipped with iron domes, with the airplanes and the latest military equipment. So there is a split, we can say, in the street when it comes to how they are perceiving these rocket attacks from Hamas, which eventually lead to Israel attacking Gaza and civilians there.
Nida, what I'm about to ask you is quite fundamental to the whole Gaza story, but I think it's worth reminding our viewers. When we talk about airstrikes on the Strip, tell our viewers about what that means for people inside who can't go anywhere.
They do not have any place to go to. They don't have shelters, and usually these attacks happen in inhabited areas. We've seen some of the targets or some of the Israeli airstrikes targeting open fields and also resistance targets. But also there are civilians that are in and around those Hamas military fields and such. So there are really no places for them to go, and some of them were telling us that they have to open the windows because they can't afford having the glass shatter from the heavy sounds that usually follow the rockets hitting the ground. So, the airstrikes hitting the ground. So it is really a dire situation, and this is why many Palestinians would tell you that it is the civilians in Gaza who pay the price for any escalation, even if it starts in occupied East Jerusalem.
Yeah, important for us to remember all of those facts there. Thank you, Nida Ibrahim in Ramallah. Now,